Worst coworker ever was the credit mooch. He would constantly horn in on other people's projects, getting his name added to them to make it look like he was doing shit when he actually not. If people tried to assign him any work on said project, he would have a personal emergency or a virus would make him lose all his work, or his schedule is booked with other project, or the worst, he would pull some sucker in to help him with it, and said sucker would end up doing it all in utter frustration. Because he was so good at stealing credit, he managed to get top marks on his reviews despite doing absolutely zero actual work for the company. I know at least 4 people quit due to this guy getting better raises than they did. Far as I know, they never actually got rid of him. I worked at a convenience store in a mall. We had lotto, and I had this worker who people called Crazy Joe. Sometimes, when people are doing lotto, they take a long time picking out tickets. So Joe was waiting on a guy, and he was taking a while, and a line was forming, pretty long. Joe looked at the line, and yelled out, "Does anyone have a gun, so I can kill myself?" He then stormed off. Same place, Gene, a guy in his 50s, touched 2 of my co-workers' asses. One was 17 at the time, the other 19. Both girls. Neither one was fired. Telemarketing co-worker was very obviously a psycho or sociopath. Showed up late every shift by definition. Had quite a temper with authority, but would often just cause trouble out of boredom, by his own admission. The most controversial thing he did one particular day was address every client he spoke to by the N-word. Once the manager heard him, he yelled at him outside for 20 minutes, and that was the end of it. A week later, this coworker denied it had ever happened, before going on a tangent about how he liked to start arguments with his girlfriend just to see her cry. Fucking sociopath. I work in a garden center. This just happened today. Buddy has worked one, today, of his scheduled shifts in the past 2 weeks. He calls in all the time, leaves a message with the cashiers, and hangs up before a manager can talk to him. On the off chance he does show up, he doesn't do anything besides move some plants around. Hell, my mom was walking through the garden center today and saw him squatted behind a stack of plants playing on his phone. Further, the guy takes multiple unauthorized breaks a day and sits in his car for at least an hour because his back hurts. He has had 2 write-ups for missing work, and somehow this lazy shite is still on payroll. He's an asshole towards both coworkers and customers alike. Nothing he's done is as preposterous as some of the stories I'm sure are on this thread, but the sheer consistency of his laziness is baffling to me. I work in a medical marijuana state. One guy neglected to check a dry room for a few days, assuming all was well. All was not well, at all. The dehumidifier crapped out while the plants were being hung to dry, and sat in a warm dark room for 3 days before it was someone else's responsibility to check it. By that point every single plant was coated in mold, and we had to throw out a little over $1 million worth of product. Side note, I had never done the math to see what he cost us until now, and am mad all over again. His only punishment was to be denied moving to day shift, but other than that it was forgotten about. Obligatory, not me but my wife. She had a coworker that literally punched a customer, wasn't fired. He later got into a physical altercation with another coworker, wasn't fired. Then he wrapped my wife's hair around her throat and play choked her, still was not fired. Finally, he got into yet another altercation with a coworker and pulled a gun on him, all while on the clock. Then he was fired. I'm a lead supervisor with no firing power of any sorts. I trained most of my baristas, so they come to me with any issues. I had one supervisor that no one likes jokingly punch one of my baristas, and he is a stocky dude, so enough force to sway him a little bit. You can bet I was pissed to hell and back when ours let her keep her job. I have a coworker that has terrible work ethic. He doesn't know how to separate his personal life from his work life, so if he's in a bad mood, which happens often, everyone will know, including customers. He's had at least 3 disciplinary meetings Once he was caught just fucking around for an hour. Not exactly sure what happened, but our boss wasn't happy. Another time he just didn't show up to work without calling in, and it was a day that everyone knew would be busy. I don't know why he hasn't been fired yet. Everywhere else I've worked he would been gone by now. I work at a psychiatric hospital, and we had a patient who was blind and who was admitted for drug-induced psychosis along with visual and auditory hallucinations. At my hospital we only accept the people who are an immediate danger to themselves or others. When a patient first comes to us, they are put on a check sheet, meaning every 10 minutes a staff member needs to see that the patient is breathing and safe. But sometimes we need to do a 1-to-1, 1:1, meaning a staff member needs to be with this person at all times, either for their safety or the safety of other patients. We also have little body alarms and floor alarms for patients, mostly geriatrics, who are unsteady while walking and need assistance. These devices let us know when they get up, so we can assist them. So anyway, the blind patient was on a 1:1 and was taking a nap in their room. The staff had a laptop to do some charting while sitting on the 1:1. Well, this staff member put the laptop on the floor, left the room all while neglecting to hook up any of the body or floor alarms. While the staff member was out of the room, our patient got up from their bed and tripped over the laptop and face planted. Another staff noticed, and we ran down to take vitals and make sure the patient was okay. Thank goodness the patient wasn't injured, but we were furious with our coworker for leaving. Their excuse was they needed to get some paperwork they had been putting off. All in all, this person didn't get fired, Lord doesn't even know why, but did get a slap on the wrist. My coworkers and I were pissed. You do not leave a patient while on 1:1, even if they are asleep. I work in an agency that coordinates services for individuals with disabilities. We have one worker has about 12 people on her case that gets all of her attention, and about 20 who are basically ignored. It's clear she isn't trying. One of the people on her caseload was my former client. I told her the correct contact info. The stuff in the online system was wrong. If she checked the yearly plan or looked in the physical file, she could get it. The next evaluation 3 months later, she said she had called the number in the online system and nobody answered. I asked about the other ways of contact, and she said she wasn't going to check any of the other places. I sent her the info, and she got in contact the next day. She constantly says we sharps drop people from services because they can't be contacted, and then when somebody else tries they get somebody the first time. Removing somebody from services and getting them back in can be a multi-month process, and if they were getting services they would lose them and maybe not be able to get them back. During evaluations she screams pretty non-stop when anything bad is pointed out.